Good morning, viewers. Welcome to Frankly Speaking with Vibhuti Jha. One of the key things that happens in our life is the stories and incidents that happen back home. And we are all American citizens here. We need not be concerned about India, but we are very involved citizens. We have never left our home behind because we have very emotional connection with India and things India. So when things happen in India, it affects us. We think about it. We wonder, what is the best response to the whole situation? Is the story being told correctly? All those things are very important. And today what I want to do is that I want to talk about specifically about Kashmir situation, Article 370, removal of 370 and 35A, and also CAA. These are the three issues that has brought India into a limelight of constant attack. I use the limelight of a constant attack a deliberate way because limelight is good, but it is like a focus of a concentrated attack on India that's happening because as if India has committed a crime of human rights violations of gigantic proportions. So to discuss this matter with me today, I have great pleasure in welcoming Richa Gautam. And Richa is if I'm correct, you are an IT professional and, and you are in the Midwest area. And welcome to the show, Richa. I look forward to hearing your thoughts on this. And along with me is Deepak Bhat. Deepak has chosen music as a career. He's a professional singer. He produces music videos. And at his young age, if he knows what he's doing, I do wish him well. I've heard his songs and he sings very well. So you have my personal best wishes for a great career. Someday when you get your Grammy or an Emmy, I hope you would invite me for that. So, with these words, I would invite Richa to shoot off on this element that, I'm very encouraged to see that young people are feeling some bond of empathy and connect with India and feel unjustly about the attacks or the media treatment of this issue in this part of the world. So Richa, what got you enraged, engaged, and so passionate about this matter? Share your thoughts, please.
Thank you, Vibhuti Ji. I want to say that yes, we as Indians, when we come to a new country, to a new land, we are so focused on academics. We are so focused on professional development. We are so focused on settling down. And in general, there is a certain level of apathy towards, politics as such. We're not that engaged. But what has happened recently is that there has been a continuous, insidious attack going on the Indian government, the Indian people, and also on just the overall, certain aspects of what laws have been passed in the parliament, democratically, I must say, by the current government. So, for example, the 370, when the 370 was nullified in Kashmir, the uproar was that there is a lot of negative propaganda actually started, and that I think woke everyone up because we saw the congressional hearing, we saw the bias in the whole congressional hearing, where the people who were representing the Indian government were not allowed to even speak up. And there was a lot of wrong propaganda because I'm personally connected to reporters on the ground in Kashmir, so I knew exactly what was going on out there, and I knew that there was a lot of negative propaganda that was going on. So all of that put together, I think the CAA was the last straw on the camel's back, and that is when the Seattle resolution, anti-CAA resolution, was started out in Seattle. I think that is when I got involved. And then, of course, there's been a trail of, I think, 7 cities that we've sort of followed through and tried to, at least present our point of view, because there seems to be a very strong push from certain lobbies to malign India and the Indian stand on the CAA, whereas so I've worked with Kohna. I work pretty closely, and I'm part of the executive team of Kohna, and which is a coalition of Hindus of North America. So I joined that, and I started to work closely to disseminate correct information on CAA through conferences, through political engagement, through engagement at schools, etc.
Oh, that's wonderful. I'm familiar with Kona, and I know Nikunj out there. He has come on this show. The three people from Kona came. Um, so that's nice to know. I mean, I'm very encouraged because I believe, even though times are such that most of the desis, you made a very interesting point that we come here for studies and we get lost in those career building and everything else. We don't get politically engaged, and that's a very important point because I have found that most Indians, I have been here for many years, and I have found that Chinese, Koreans, Vietnamese, the Vietnamese are quieter, but other communities, Mexicans, Latinos, Mexicans, Pakistanis, and Muslims for that matter, they are so politically alert.
Mm-hmm.
They are politically active. So if they migrate to this country, they bring their politics on their shoulders. They know that they have an agenda, they have to meet a goal. Indians, on the contrary, they do not. They come here for studies, as you very rightly said, and most of them are engrossed in studies, making academic excellence, and they don't remember that politics plays a key role in our life in terms of perception of people. So, Deepak, coming to you, you are a musician. I would definitely want to know how you decided to take music as a career. Before I ask you or I request you to talk about these matters, you are really young. How did this political awareness strike you? And you wrote a song or two, you sang a song or two about this matter. So
Mhm.
tell me your story on this matter, because I'm very much excited to see a person from a field of music getting engaged on the political battlefront as well.
Right. So before this political song, my music was very personal, and it was just mostly about my own life, my own experiences throughout high school, college, and so it's been a personal journey. And so when it came to this political point, I was actually approached by Richa ji with this project, and I was never politically involved myself, and I had no idea what was going around in the world, and specifically in this place in Pakistan and with the CAA. And I didn't know any of this stuff. So when I was approached with this project, I was like, wow, there's like so much I don't know about, and there's so much wrong happening in the world. And now I have this opportunity to use my music to do something good, to speak about the truth and like all the pain and the suffering that's going around. And so that's when I came to the political point, and that's what like drove me to make that political song with Richa ji.
Hmm. Now, tell me a couple of things here, because you are an American citizen, you have lived here, you have studied in school here.
Yeah.
One of the things which I haven't been to the school here, but both Richa and yourself can share with the group people who are watching the show today and will watch on YouTube later, is the education part in US schools and colleges. They're so liberal that the conservative point of view is not heard. And I do know that Hindu thoughts and Hindu philosophy was very wrongly interpreted and taught. Share your thoughts on that, if true. Do you agree with that? And in California school system, they brought about significant changes at the insistence of some of the organizations and the pressures put by people from California and Hindus and Indians from all over the country. Deepak, you're short first.
Okay. I think it's very wrong to not hear both sides of an argument, and also to suppress someone's voice. And I've heard a lot about how there's been misinformation, all this wrong info that's been taught at schools about just the Indian side of things. So I think that's very wrong. I think both sides have to be heard out, and that's what the point of this song and this our mission was to bring a very like special and a nice way to reach out to the youth and to the modern society through music, which is has a big part in the industry and in the country. So that's what the goal of our song was in our project.
Now, you talked about listening to the both sides of the issue.
Mhm.
Politicians don't.
Right.
Musicians do. Musicians
Right.
have happy songs, sad songs, because they carry a thought. Music doesn't recognize religion. Music, it transcends. Music transcends. Sare Gama Padhanisa transcends every religious aspect of
Mhm.
life, right? Within those 7 notes, you can create innumerable tunes that is possible. And it's not bound by any religious text or religious compulsions. So the
Right.
question that I have for you is, because you are a person who in the field of limitless creativity, and so in that scenario, how would you take this issue of CAA and discrimination that happens in the name of religion? How would you interact with the world around you who are not like you, who are not Deepak, who are not Bhatt, but who are
Mhm.
somebody else?
Exactly. So that is what the point of music is, because music is very like universal, has a, like you said, like it creates a very generic feeling that people can relate to without any specific naming or religion. So the purpose of this song was to create that feeling of what people go through in Pakistan, and the point of CAA. And in this song specifically, our purpose was to create like a dark fear of haunting vibe. Especially the song is about a father's fear of the daughter's safety. And so that is very like anyone who's a dad can relate to that. Like I'm only 23, but I'm sure that when I grow up to be a father, I want to do everything I want to be able that I can do to protect my daughter and her innocence. So the point of that song was to create that feeling of hauntingness and the darkness and the fear of wanting to protect the daughter, so that the audiences could relate to that and be like, wow, I feel so much for this. Like, how can someone else? Why should they have to also go through this in Pakistan with all the kidnappings of young girls and all that stuff? So that's the mission of the song, to make people relate to it, even though they don't have that firsthand experience. But something in their life can trigger that with that
Would
song.
you send that song is on YouTube, right?
Yes. And
It
there's a
is
music
there on
video for that
YouTube.
too.
Would you give me a reference to that and send me that particular clipping so that I can add to the program? Viewers might be able to listen to that. I would be
Yeah, sure.
happy to do that. So after the show is over, please
Mm.
send me that YouTube and I'll see we can put that in the frame of reference.
Yeah,
That's
sure, definitely.
fabulous. So now you are definitely hitting upon a very emotional tone, and it will disappoint you to know that today I came across a news that Pakistan is offering Hindu girls as bounty to Chinese contractors. That really kind of makes me really
Wow.
angry. I mean, why do we have, I have often said, why at all do we need to have a political relationship with a country like Pakistan, which so brazenly abuses Hindu sentiments and Hindu feelings? So, Richa,
Mhm.
I'm coming to you on this subject matter that, CAA, I know the various municipalities here passed resolutions against India. It was a stupid joke, I would put it. It's a tragic resolutions. It was a stupidity of those people. I believe they were paid money to do that. All the municipal councils who passed these resolutions, anti-India resolutions, they were paid money to do that. And this was again a very sad thing, that they were paid money to push through these resolutions without even bothering to know the true effect. They just took one stand, and that stand was it discriminates against Muslims. And that was something really remarkably unfortunate, that the Democratic Party, particularly, fell victim to the machinations of a select group of people. I won't say that every Democratic Party member was of that thought, But when you raise a bogey of human rights, and that's an important question that you young people need to take on further. Human rights, yes. What about the human rights in a particular faith? When their faith itself says that the non-believers must be killed or converted, right? So like you know about the Kashmir issue, the issue was convert, leave, or die, correct? You know, that's the whole the Kashmir issue was. So share with me your impression that what must the Indian community do now going forward so that these resolutions are not passed. I have said in the past, I have said it time and again, that I have had conversations with people. I said, how would you feel if Indian municipalities begin to pass resolutions against the Black Lives Matters issues in America? How would you feel about it? You know, it's not about human rights. It's about the internal matter of a particular family or a country. You know, nobody wants a discrimination. How you run your family and how you decorate your family, who am I to tell you that? So the question here is, how do we take that statement forward? How do we remain eternally vigilant to ensure that this kind of rubbish, as I would call it, doesn't happen again?
Mhm. Yes, a lot, there's a lot of unpacking to do here. First of all, I do want to bring up the point that you just mentioned that, the Hindu girls are being offered as bounty to the Chinese contractors, and not just Hindus, Christian girls too, right?
Yes.
The point is they are ill-treating not just Hindus, but also Sikhs, also Christians, also Jains. So what's going on there? What's going on is that, it's a theocratic state. It is discriminating systemically and religiously in social infrastructure. Everything is against these minorities. They have no rights. The song that Deepak has made is so strong because we have real WhatsApp clippings in there, or WhatsApp, or what do you say, the video clippings that people have taken on their phones of for example, a sister of a girl who was abducted to be a bounty or a prostitute. She's trying to give a testimony in the court. She's being pushed by lawyers, she's being pushed by policemen, and not allowed to enter the court while the proceedings are on. That is the kind of discrimination. Systemically, the people are all involved in pushing down the minority, and the CAA actually addresses that sort of asylum, easy asylum for these people who have nowhere to go, right? So first of all, we wanted to present that humanitarian aspect through the music, because music is a language of the soul. Hopefully it will enter the brains and minds of the politicians and the schools and all the people who live here in the United States, who are being fed this propaganda through media, through a lot of channels. So that said, I think you've talked about passing of these city council resolutions. Now, like you said, India as a country may not want to care. They will be like, okay, a city in, say, Chicago or San Francisco, or they've passed this resolution. It doesn't impact. I think that was also an official statement by the Indian MEA, the Ministry of External Affairs. But as Indian Americans who live here, we cannot sit on the fence. We cannot stand and stare at this kind of discrimination, because it is going to impact not the people in India. It's impacting us here. It's impacting us politically. The Democrats, I think most immigrants tend to lean towards the liberal side. We go through the academics. We are all sort of raised to understand that Democrats are the pro-immigrant, party. But I personally slowly have started to disagree with that. But my political views aside, what I want to say is that we have no voice left if we do not fight for our own voice. Whether it's political or the schools. I have personally felt more more threatened by the fact that CAA has entered the school districts. I have been working with my friend Sudha Jagannathan in Kohana. and Sapna Rena also, who has supported this whole movement of fighting the CAA infiltration into the school discourse in a negative manner. They're portraying India as, again, like you said, anti-Muslim, anti-democracy, or anti-secular, things like that. And we can go into the nitty-gritty of the law. I can, pull it threadbare. But the point is that students, how much can they understand? I have studied this mundane law, and I've understood how what a humanitarian law this is. And which is why Deepak's song comes in as a good messaging for our youth, because they can see, when they see the pictures speak louder than words, and music and a video together, I think there's nothing left to say after that. So we fought battles in at least 3 counties recently, in 3 school districts, and tried to stall the CAA messaging that is going on there. And I can go in detail.
Yeah,
But
you should. This is truly remarkable. I mean, I did not know about this, that they are discussing this matter in schools, because that's where, when you are pushed to say or do something, then the child begins to wonder. And since the parents are not politically engaged, the Indian children must be finding it really stressful to respond to that. And the best way to respond then is to abide by that, or just agree with that, so that you flow with the motion, not knowing the truth and not being able to defend. I'll give you a very simple example. When I came here, my son was a 5th grader in California school system, and they were discussing Clarence Thomas and Anita Hill case. Now, this is a very important thing, because both of you have experience in schooling here, perhaps in one way or the other. And they were discussing Anita Hill, Clarence Thomas thing was going on in the TV in the class. And I happened to visit, just curiosity. And I saw this case was being discussed about sexual abuse. Remember that. 5th grader is listening to a TV debate on one of the TV channels that was talking about the sexual abuse of a high-ranking US government official for Supreme Court nomination. And the children, my son was asked to vote whether Clarence Thomas should be the judge or not. And I asked the teacher, I said, look, the country I come from, the culture that I come from, we don't discuss things like this in public. That to a 5th grader who perhaps doesn't know much about sex. You are talking him to give a verdict or his opinion about a case of sexual abuse, which is so cantankerous in more ways than one. Are you being fair with them? Are you being fair with the mind? And he said, no, our children know. That was my first time, real shocking revelation to what, sex education is one thing. Biology classes, I have also studied biology classes where they showed the anatomy of the man or a woman or a frog or whatever. We know all that, but that's not the issue. Issue is the abuse part of it, when and how. And I questioned the teacher by asking him, so does it mean that just because you have become of age, that you indulge in sexual activities from as early as 13? Does it mean that you can get pregnant at the age of 13? Where is the sense of responsibility? Where is the sense of right and wrong? That, or appropriateness. Let's not to use the word right and wrong, at least appropriateness. Deepak, you heard a lot. You're part of this schooling system. Your thoughts?
I agree with you. I don't think 5th graders should be involved in that discussion, and that that serious of a topic, like abuse and sexual abuse. Like, I know if I had a child that was in 5th grade, I would try to keep that stuff away from him or her. So I agree with you completely about that, at least. And sexual education is one thing. That's
right.
That's fine. Yeah, but this is a completely different situation. It's much more serious, and they shouldn't be able to make that decision of what's right and wrong. If they can't vote for president until they're 18, if they can't drink when they're 21, why should they be able to make this serious of a decision when they're only in 5th grade?
That's true. And I do not know. Fortunately, my son doesn't have to go to school anymore. My what what I hear horrifies me. It horrifies me because instead of imparting a value, we instill a sense of defiance. There is a very important distinction between asking a question and trying to defy something. There's a very subtle difference between arrogance and confidence. You just cross a line. And that's the line which I think in the US system, we are seeing the collapse of those lines. And that's what worries me because I'm very democratic. We are Hindus, we are democratic by nature. We are accepting by nature. We are Sanatani. So we don't care. I don't even ever ask you who you pray to, what you pray to, or even at all whether you pray or not, right? We don't make judgment on those matters. Whereas other faiths believe Jesus is the only way, Allah is supreme. And I tell them that, listen, you are welcome to your point of view. Don't tell me that I am wrong in what I do. That's all. And I'm seeking religious acceptance. I decry religious use of word religious tolerance as if I have no choice. That's what is important. So Deepak, I want to hear from you more about your project that you created. The music is one thing, but I would also want to know, how did you get involved with this and what is your thought going forward? Is this one project of one song and over, or are you going to be taking the music to reach out to people on human equality, human respect, and human acceptances?
So definitely, like I said before, like this, before this, I didn't know anything about all this situation that's going on in Pakistan with the CAA, and I wasn't very politically involved. But since I was given this opportunity, I feel very blessed to be able to do this. And so that means I really want to keep doing this, and I want to keep fighting for the truth. It's not about just one specific like place or one specific side that I'm taking. I just want to fight for the truth and make my music something more than me, more about for the greater good. And so having this opportunity, I feel very blessed, and I would want to keep doing this moving forward.
Brilliant. I wish you well for that, definitely. And
I've worked closely with Deepak while we were formulating this song, and he has a very sensible head on his shoulders, and he's just able to take things and really grasp them so well, and put music to some of the emotions that we want to portray. So yeah, I look forward to working with him some more, on some more issues. That would be
now,
awesome.
I wanted to ask you, Richa, is that you are part of CONA, Coalition of Hindus in North America. Now, obviously, it has a very noble purpose, and what I wanted to say that you are confronted with institutions. Are you going to be politically active, or are you going to remain that hum Indians hain, hum politics nahi involved nahi hote? There are many Indian organizations that sadly say, oh, we want to stay away from politics. I'm saying, no, politics is part of society, just as religion is part of society, just as economics is part of society. We are a composite whole of all of this put together. You can't say, I'm going to be politically desensitized totally. So how do you think you will, or CONA will, involve the Hinos, as I call them, Hindus in name only, people become more active and involved in their issues?
True. So CONA is actually an advocacy group, right? It's an advocacy organization. And we advocate for any issues that relate to Hindus, right? That is the whole purpose of the group. And we do have a government affairs or a political engagement, whereas we're not a PAC or a political action committee or anything like that. But any issues that impact us, and these days there seem to be too many, so we are definitely getting involved. For example, I think recently there was this case where the New York City was trying to pass a bill against swastika, swastika, which is a holy symbol for Hindus, for not just Hindus, for Buddhists, there a similar symbol exists for like the Native Americans. So if they start teaching this in textbooks, which was the whole idea, then it's that's to me is the most difficult to digest and most harmful part of this whole process, or the whole political narrative and propaganda machinery that is going on, that it is going to impact our children. Today we have Hindus in name only. Later they'll be like, we are not even Hindus in name. If the children go through this kind of indoctrination that swastika is a hate symbol, which is what the New York City Council was trying to do. And we've been working very hard to stop that. And if they are learning that, in the textbooks, like you mentioned earlier, California, we were fighting, and I think in Atlanta and Georgia, everywhere we have to fight this case where they're trying to show Hindus as, idol worshippers, and everything said in a a manner denigrating the whole, whatever we do, whether trying to impose the caste system. I've written a big treatise, I would say, on the caste system, that they were trying to, the Equality Labs. There is an organization called Equality Labs, and they completely are behind a lot of this propaganda machinery. So we have to be very careful as how Indian Americans are being portrayed here. We will become the next Jews otherwise. And even though they're trying to call the Hindu, they again, that is the other narrative. They're trying to call them fascist, right? And the fact of the matter is, we are suffering at this time. We are the ones who have the mute button on. We do not have a say in the media. We do not have, any voice in the mainstream media. We do not have voice in the politics, really. Everyone else has a loudspeaker, which they're blasting messages against us. And now it's entering schools and textbooks, and there are, like we've discussed a little while ago, and the political machinery, like we discussed a little while ago. And also, I think we should all be aware that it has also entered the professional, where we stand really strong in Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley rests on the shoulders of the Indian Americans. And what's going on there is they're trying to put the judiciary system against us, trying to call out caste as a caste and racism, and the fact that Indian Americans are discriminating against lower caste, whereas we live in a postmodern sort of society. We never carry the label of caste, on our shoulders. So I don't know what this whole narrative is about, but this is definitely some sort of an insidious plan, and we have to be active. I would call out to all the Hindus in name only, who are sitting on the fence, to engage, to at least listen and try to understand, and not just, be brainwashed by the mainstream media narrative, because the mainstream media has been captured completely.
That you make a very poignant statement here, and I'm distressed and happy both at the same time. I'm distressed at your statement, which is what the future looks like for Indians and Hindus particularly, because we have become with a target on the back.
Yes.
Because of our successes, professional successes, we have become the targets. And the reason they say is that these people are who they are because of their teachings, and as if we are evil because we do things non-Abrahamic way. On the contrary, we are not promoting or establishing the correct perspective of who we are. So I have said in one of the Jaipur Dialogue programs is that the onus lies on us. If we don't define ourselves, others will define us. And its time has come today that Sanatan Dharma is the need of the hour. I extended that argument by saying that if you want to genuinely be involved in climate change and want to make a difference, then adopt Sanatan practices that will address the problem of nature. I have said that if you want to have an instant world peace, then just follow one tenet of Hinduism, is acceptance, not tolerance. Religious acceptance is the name of the game, because in our Hindu way of life, we do not care who prays to whom. The Ram worshipper, Krishna worshipper, Ganesh worshipper, Kali worshipper, Durga worshipper, nobody says that my God is superior than yours, and nobody makes a discrimination. We go to the same temple. Whether I pray to Lord Venkateshwara or not, nobody cares.
Yes.
It doesn't matter. And if I don't pray to Ganesh, he doesn't come, he doesn't withdraw his blessings. And if I don't pray to Lord Shiva, he doesn't come with his Trishul to kill me. That's the beauty of our faith. Whether you are Arya Samaji, Burma Samaji, whatever you are, what you do eventually defines you. So whether you pray or not, that's the true meaning of secularism. We don't need to be concerned about the freedom of religion, which is a Western concept. We are a faith which has freedom enshrined in our way of life. So Deepak, coming to you, I do not know you that well to say that whether this is all flying over your head, but I suspect as a musician, I have been a singer in my past too. So as a music part of it, I respect the seven sur, sa re ga ma pa dha ni sa, right? And you can create innumerable tunes out of that. That's what music, the beauty of music is. And share with me, how do you see the tapestry of music playing out in the social life, and how as a musician you will fix this problem? Because I do not want to be unfair with you, but I would encourage and ask you, when you hear this conversation, Richa, myself, and we are having, how is your internal feeling right now as a young man?
Well, I agree with a lot of the things you've been saying, especially about how, especially that quote that you mentioned, where if we don't define us, somebody else will define us. Like, that really leaves a mark, and that's very true, actually. And I know, like, I've seen that like Hindus and Indians are very passive people. They're also very accepting, just because of their faith and religion. But they don't. I've seen they don't stand up that much for themselves, and they let a lot of things fly by, which is not good in the end, obviously. So, like you were asking with music, the point of it is to create that kind of desire to stand up and do something about what's going on and all these issues, and especially in society, and just create this feeling in people that, oh, I need to do something about this because this is wrong, this is not right. um we need to stand up, and we need to save these people. We need to fix what's happening to us, and all of these kind of emotions is what the point of music, creating that, is.
That's very true. I know how the all the singers and musicians step on the stage, and then in that moment, not on that moment, in that moment we are the world, and the very moment the stars go off the stage, then the killings start. So there is a very interesting part of our socio-cultural milieu that some things remain as an element of show. And then there are musicians, then there are poets, then there are authors, there are writers who make a difference. So I hope you will end up being the one who makes a difference. And I would put it this way: there is a very interesting thing about it. I noticed in India the death of Hindi poetry, and I have seen how the Urdu shairi and shairs have become dominant. I hope sometime you will contribute to the enrichment of the music that is Indian. I hope you will do that. Richa, coming to you again, we are on a very serious issue. And I have often said, I have actually done a program here, and I have shared on other platforms, that Hindus facing an existential threat. That's important. The cue for this thought process came Because I notice in America, both Muslims and Christians complain that they are being discriminated against. And I keep saying, who is discriminating against you? But because there are more than 150 countries which are Christian countries, there are more than 56 countries that are Muslim countries. We are the one Hindu country, we are, secular country. We are not saying that we are facing existential threat, but those two keep talking about threat to their religion. That triggered a very different thought in my mind, that in reality, we are facing an existential threat. Because between jihad and crusade, guess who gets killed? You and I. And that's what is an important part to pay attention to. And when I say facing an existential threat, I don't mean that 1.3 billion people will vaporize tomorrow. No, but we will be taken out of the mainstream of conversation. And that's what is happening. Others are deciding what's good for India. And take, for example, and I'm creating another platform of conversation, the farmers' agitation in India. Very few people know about the real issue. I have seen these things unfold over a period in time. I know I was a student of economics in India. I worked in India, in Reserve Bank of India and affiliate institutions where agriculture reform was the big thing. I've seen that.
Mhm.
India has been crying for an agriculture reform for donkey's years. Those people who are opposing the agitation, opposing the bill today passed, are the ones who were asking for it and promising that in 2008 and 2007. They are the ones who brought that thought that we will pass these bills. They lost the election, it came to Modi's lap, and he took the action. The greatest credit of Mr. Modi is that when Congress people say, oh, that was our idea, Modi is claiming it. I said, yeah, you put it in place, but you didn't do anything about it. Somebody took and touched the touch line. So give the guy taking the thing to the touch line. You didn't do anything about it. So my point is that Canada began to sermonize this. I call him an immature prime minister of Canada, Mr. Justin Trudeau, who all that he knows is does Bhangra in Sikh festivals and Khalistan groups. And I'm very angry about that. I have nothing against him. I don't know him, but his behavior is highly prime minister like. He was totally under the pressure of Khalistani groups in his party. And he made a comment that he supports the democratic right to protest against, but nobody's stopping them protesting. Yeah, if they are going violent, there will be a water cannon shot at them. But for a country like Canada to interfere in the internal matters of India is the one where my blood boils, and we do nothing about it. Not a single Hindu group in Canada has told Mr. Trudeau to stop the nonsense. Even the Sikhs in UK tried to do that. Boris Johnson refused to lecture India on this matter. And I have been saying this for a very long time. I'm very vocal on these matters. For example, I will share with you that there was a time when somebody told me, why don't you give Punjabis the Khalistan and Kashmiri to Pakistan, and you will be happily living after that. And I told him that, hey, if all the blacks in America tomorrow decide that for their discrimination, they are walking into the inner cities of Los Angeles, New York, Detroit, and declaring 3 different countries called Black Gold Land, would you let it happen? No, it will not happen. I said, if tomorrow Hawaii says, and Alaska says that we don't want to be part of the mainstream America, we are declaring independence, would you let it happen? No. I said, then I said tomorrow 60 million Latinos here. You acquired, San Jose is not an American name. It's a non-American name. So San Jose, New Mexico, Texas, these are all areas that you occupied. You acquired that area, made it into America. If these Latinos declare separate Latino land, would you let it happen? They say, no way. I said, then in that case, why the hell do you interfere in Indian matters? Who gave you the locus standi to comment on my matters? I'm not commenting on your issues. That is the kind of political awareness that we need to have. And I would urge that Kona does that. What do you think?
Yes, a lot to unpack. Thank you so much. This was amazing to hear you. Let's get first to the last topic of the farmers' bill, right? So, in my mind, as soon as the farmers' agitation came across the world, Canada, and even here, it's starting out here as well. And like you said, there's people on the streets in UK, and we're not. So the point I'm trying to make here is that if a farmer's bill is coming across the world, then it is, to me, it is almost like a statement that yes, this is a political machinery that is working. This is not about just human rights. This is not about just, it is just a propaganda machinery. That is the first point I want to make. The second point about Justin Trudeau, well, you just gave me a, what do you call, a full toss, like they say in cricket, and I have to call him the Rahul Gandhi of Canada, because that's how I see him. He's goofy, he goofs up. He has no sense of history, he has no sense of his legacy, and he's going to make Canada as unsafe as Europe has become right now because of his policies, because of his short-sighted statements like he's making, and political decisions that he makes. But coming to what Kona will do, absolutely, we always want to engage and put the messaging correctly for our first line of defense, as we are always on the defense these days, is obviously towards the Indian Americans here, the Hindu Americans here, because there's a constant attack that I feel, like I said, we are the current Jews, who are facing a lot of threat, and things are just getting worse and worse and worse. If we don't fight the Hindu phobia here, no one is going to come to our rescue. No one. So we really, really have to be on the alert, and create a more national sort of a coalition, and which is what this is, a coalition of Hindus. Kohana is. So yes, so that is the first line of. And the deracination was the second thing that you spoke about earlier. Deracination, in the sense that as Hindus, there's a constant feeling like we don't complain of being threatened. We, in India, the Kashmiri Hindus were the only group that have faced genocide, and that was in a Muslim majority, area of India. So that point should not go unnoticed, but unfortunately, it has. It has for a long time gone unnoticed. The only reason the mute button is off to some extent is because we can have a conversation like this today. We can use the social media to put across some of our messaging, because like I said before, the sad part is we don't have a voice in the mainstream media. All our statements are twisted, and all our facts are twisted. So the deracination of the Hindus has to be stemmed by the Hindus. We have to stand up for ourselves. We have to understand who we are, and we have to, like you said, take Sanatan Dharma and take it to the people of the world, because we come with very universal values that actually are valued very strongly in the Western world. I think everyone is feeling threatened with the kind of radicalism that is being shown around the world, whether it's the sort of riots we saw here, whether the riots that came about in Sweden, Norway, or in India for that matter. There is a certain level of anarchy that has taken over the world. And it's only, like you said, if people like Bojo stand up, Boris Johnson, I call him Bojo because I like him so much, but when they stand up for the right, when they see what is right, what is wrong, and they actually stand up and say, you know what, this is internal matter of India, I'm not going to speak up for it. That is the kind of leadership we need in this world. And hopefully we, as Hindus, as Indian Americans, we will all recognize the need for it.
I'm very definitely encouraged by your Kohana spirit, and that's truly awesome. Deepak, if I may ask you, one of the things which I always say, that to take the cue from what Richa has said, staying engaged with the process is the key for Hindus to survive in this world.
Mm.
I'm afraid when Richa says that we are the modern Jews, we will be treated like that because of our success, because of our professionalism, and because of who we are. I might share with you that, a long time ago, a major politician told me, "We love you Indians as immigrants to this country. You are professionals, you are hardworking, you take care of your family, you have family values, you take care of your children, you are least problem on the law and order side, you are least criminal people, and you ask for nothing." That was the punchline. You
Mm.
ask for nothing. In America, you get what you ask for, you get what you deserve, and you have to assert yourself for that. We are least assertive people. We Hindus are least assertive people, and we are not kind of encouraged to fight for what we are. But the
Mm.
time has come for that. So I would urge you to write a song on that sometime. But before you write that song, I would like to hear your thoughts as a very young man. How charged up, emotional, involved you feel that is this issue worth fighting for, or are we wasting our time?
I definitely think this issue is worth fighting for. I don't think this is a waste of time at all. There's innocent lives being lost, there's a lot of suffering and pain, and that is never okay. So definitely it is something worth fighting for. And even with the issue you brought up about Hindus being too passive and letting things fly by, that also we need to take care of and bring make people bring a voice out of themselves. So hopefully my music eventually will make people stand up for what is right and build an army and encourage people to have a voice and speak out with that voice against these wrongdoings, because this is never okay. This is obviously, no matter who it is against, it's, you have to stand up for these things. Like, people are getting hurt, daughters are getting abducted, young children, all of these issues, people are getting driven out of their homes. All of these issues are never okay, so that's why we have to speak out.
Hey, both Richa and Deepak, thank you so much for being part of this program today. And really, thank you from the bottom of the heart, because seeing you young people makes me feel young again. And, so as I always say, staying, age may be a number, but youth is not. So the question is, let's kind of stay connected. Let's stay engaged. I always say that. And, even if you don't want to fight, and it's a very important thing that I shared with some people, that even if you are vegan, vegetarian, or absolute ahimsa ke pujari, but if your family is attacked, you will have to rise up to defend your family, correct? But you will not be able to defend your family if you're not battle ready, if you don't know how to shoot, if you don't know how to fight, if you are not ready to fight. So even though you may be complete ahimsa ke pujari, be ready to protect your family and who you are. And that's the important point for us Hindus to remember, that God lives in us, and we have to protect the God by being ready to fight for that belief. And that's an important message that I want to share with my audience today, that you have heard two young people who got triggered and mobilized their thoughts. And Deepak has created a fabulous song, and I hope you will be able to watch that song. We will put it on in the text here so that you can go to YouTube and listen to that. Richa and the team is set up a coalition of Hindus of North America. And I hope more people join, regardless of age differences, and become aware. It is not being argumentative, but you need to be assertive. When a wrong thing happen, you got to stand up. You can't let the wrong go by. You let that happen and you are run over. That's what I mean by saying that the Hindus are facing an existential threat, not because of anybody else, but because we are not telling people to draw a Lakshman Rekha this far and no further. We have to learn the ability, we have to have the ability to be able to say no when we have to mean no. With these thoughts, I end my program today, wishing you all a great weekend. Richa and Deepak, lovely having you here. Have a great time and we will talk again. Thank you.